Good morning. Welcome to the garden. I'm glad you're here with us on this first Sunday of winter. You know, it started yesterday. I always like that day because it's the shortest day, the longest night, and then everything starts going the other direction. So it's all looking up from here on. So I'm glad you're here with us. I want to ask you a question. Are you all ready for Christmas? Are you already worn out by the whole thing? I don't know whether it's good or bad that there's 3 days left if you count today. For some, that may be panic time. For others, it may be, well, I'm okay. It's good. I'm relaxed and ready to enjoy it. I've seen some people here at the 8:15 service who usually come at 10:15, who came at 8:15 because they're not ready. So that's perfect for today's topic. You know, the problem is this time of year is a really stressful and busy time of the year. There are all these expectations and all these thoughts. There's expectations of what Christmas is going to be like and not enough hands to make it happen. There are events to attend and yet we don't seem to have the energy to do it. There's all the preparations to be made, but the gift buying that has to be done, but we don't have the time, the patience, or the money to deal with it all. And if you're in that kind of place, you've got plenty of company, I suspect, and I certainly can join you. It's just really crazy, and it's really hard to appreciate what Christmas is really all about. That's why we probably need to make some decisions. If we're right here on the Sunday before Christmas, which is Wednesday, we need to make some decisions. There are probably some things that we need to mark off our list that just simply aren't all that important. And there may be other things that we need to keep on the list. But then we have to have this dilemma. You know, who's going to be disappointed because they don't have a gift under the tree on Christmas morning? What friends are we going to lose touch with because we don't send out Christmas cards this time? What are the traditions and the rituals that will simply disappoint some because, well, we're not going to do them this time? Well, before we get into this mess of trying to figure this all out, maybe what we need to do is just take a deep breath. A minute, I didn't hear you. Thank you. Take a deep breath, relax our shoulders a little bit, just close our eyes and just kind of get recentered and refocused a little bit. Because we can only make those kinds of decisions when we're really calm, and we're really more prepared to think about it. We need to figure out what really is the important thing of Christmas, what really matters. And to do that, we've got to figure out the reason that we celebrate Christmas. Now, for me at least, it has to do with the birth of Jesus and the story of God's love breaking into the world and breaking into our hearts and homes once again. Christmas is about love and hope and joy and peace. And it's hard to experience love and hope and joy and peace when we feel all stressed and overloaded with everything that's going on. If you think about our garden Christmas card, we said that Christmas is all about the closeness of friends and the comfort of home that renews our spirits. And yet when we have these friends around and these family members around, sometimes we don't really take it all in because we're busy in the kitchen or we're cleaning up messes or we're in the car trying to get from one experience to another so we can be with these people. It just is absolutely crazy. Seems that we've got to do something to change this. We've got to really start to thin out this list and really figure out what really matters, what really counts here. Well, where do we start? Well, at least in our household, I've decided that we're going to start with some of the traditions and rituals that maybe have been a part of our past that maybe we can do away with, that maybe didn't really create the kind of memory and the kind of experience that we wanted it to be. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. When our daughter was little, on Christmas Eve, we had this tradition that began. Our families always came to be with us on Christmas Eve. And when I got home, I usually worked the 5 and 7 o'clock services over at St. Luke's. And I would come home, and then we would have our Christmas Eve dinner. And then after the dinner was all done, my dad, who was when my parents were still alive, obviously, but my dad would share the story of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. And he had it memorized. And I remember our daughter, Erin, was just mesmerized by that story. She would listen so intently. And then when the story was all finished, she would be allowed to go get one gift from under the tree to open it, and then it was bedtime. And it was time to go to bed so she would be ready for Christmas morning. Well, I thought that was really, really special. So last year I decided with a granddaughter, this might be something we would try. And so we got to Christmas Eve dinner, and it was, got ready to do all this, and then realized that neither Mike nor I had 'Twas the Night Before Christmas memorized. So we couldn't do that. And then we thought, well, we'll find the book. Well, we couldn't find the book. And frankly, at that point, I was so panicked, I'm not sure exactly what we did. I don't know if we tried to make it up, or if we tried to remember what we could, or if we chose another book. Anyway, it was a disaster. It just simply did not work at all. And then I realized that part of the reason it didn't work is that our granddaughter is different from her mother, and it's a different time. It's a different era. While she likes to have stories read to her, she also loves her iPad and all those fast-moving games and all the animated stories. And so it just simply wasn't the right thing for her. So we haven't had this conversation yet, but I suspect that marking off our list will be trying to find 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I don't think we need to include that this time. Well, if we think about thinning out that list, each of us will have to make decisions on our own. What can we take off the list? What's not really so critical in terms of those memories or those traditions or those rituals in such a way that we can mark them off and still have a sense of the beauty and the wonder of the season? Well, let's take a look and see what happens after the Grinch takes away all the trappings of Christmas. Once we've spent some time figuring out what that more is, we may have thinned out our list a little bit, but it may still be a little bit long. Well, what do we do then? Well, it seems to me that maybe it's time to enlist some help. Maybe we could ask someone to take something off the list and we do something else. Or maybe we can do something together and it takes half the time and you get it done and just as quickly as possible. Or maybe we just realize how important it is to share the load, to have company with someone. Well, that's one of the ways I think that we can help make Christmas filled with all kinds of benefits and blessings. And it sort of relates in a very circuitous way to the Bible passage that we have for this morning. Now, this passage is actually out of Matthew's Gospel. And let's look at it first, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's going on before and after and how it all fits in. This is how the writer of Matthew begins. Jesus said, "Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." Well, let me give you a little context as to what's going on here. What Jesus is talking about here is some of the traditions and laws that the Jewish people were to obey, were to follow. Remember that Jesus was Jewish, and so he was trying to help them, and he realized that those were pretty cumbersome and could be difficult to accomplish, to live according to them. And what he was suggesting in a way is that if these laws were simplified, it might be less burdensome for some. And what he was really saying, he understood the simple sense of what it was all about. He said it was all about love of God, love of one another, and love of ourselves. And so if we get it down to the most important thing, that's what we do. We name the most important thing and then we minimize the rest. We keep first things first. But then Jesus does something else here that's kind of unexpected. He says, walk with me and work with me and get this unforced rhythm of life. And in other words, he understood it. He could be an example for them, and he was willing to share the load with them. He offered of himself. And that's a way that you and I can do that as well. We can share the load. We can offer ourselves to one another. And we can work together to accomplish whatever we want to accomplish or whatever's most important to accomplish. You see, that's how it all begins to happen. Whenever I see a group of volunteers gathered around a table, even like stuffing envelopes, the phrase that always goes through my mind is many hands make light work. And indeed, that's really true. It does make a difference. So it's helpful for us at this time of year and every time of the year to actually share the load. So, okay, if we figure out what really is most important, which is love, and if we figure out how we can share that love, we need to put it in action. How do we live in tune with that? You know, Gandhi said, action expresses priorities. So, what are the actions that express the priorities of love and sharing? All right, we say that love is about spending time with family and friends. What are the actions that show we're really there, we're really present with them? Well, maybe it means turning off our cell phones or putting them away so that we aren't always online trying to check things. Maybe it means skipping a meeting and going to have a cup of coffee with a friend. Perhaps it means getting up a little earlier in the morning so we can get our exercise in so that we can feel more fit physically, mentally, and emotionally to be ready for the season. And maybe it means that if we happen to have an appointment cancel, that instead of rushing on to the next thing, we just take those 15 or 20 minutes and reflect a little bit and get ourselves regrounded and reset and recentered and ready for what comes ahead. If we say that one of the priorities is giving gifts, that's an expression of our love, that's an action that shows love, then we don't just go out and grab the first thing we see off the shelf and get it for someone. We really take our time and think about what are the wants, what are the needs, what are the cares that this person has, what would someone really appreciate, what really is fitting for this particular person, and make it a gift that really expresses love that we're really offering to one another. And when we talk about gifts that express love, it's important for us to always remember those people who are struggling, because there are a lot of them this time of the year and actually every time of the year. And so that's another way. We did that with the baskets, but there are other ways that we can do that as well. And actually, you're going to have an opportunity to have Christmas all year long, because that's going to be one of the focuses of what we're going to be doing in 2014, of how we can help other people and make Christmas last every day of the year. Once we figure out what really matters, what really is important, then we have already kind of figured out what's meaningful, what's significant. One of the ways that I keep getting reminded of that is with our granddaughter. I know you hear about her a lot, but she's pretty important in our lives. And I've told you that I have nativities around the house, and I really enjoy watching her, because whenever she comes, she chooses one nativity or another, and she starts to arrange and rearrange it. And it's kind of interesting, because every time she rearranges it, she always has Jesus either right in the middle with everybody else circled around, or she brings Jesus and Mary and Joseph out to the front and center of the whole thing. To me, that's a reminder of where we need to keep Jesus and his life, the kind of life he lived, and setting an example for us. We need to keep it at the front and center of our Christmas experience. And if we do that, if we're able to do that, everything that's unimportant will fall away, and we'll be clear on what really matters, on what really counts.